Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to your Tuesday edition. My apologies if my energy level is extremely slow today. I've been teaching all morning from 7 till literally like 30 minutes ago. So it's been a pretty busy day, hectic day for me out here. But all in all, should be a pretty darn good day. Sorry for a little bit of a late start. I had to get some content ready. As I see many of you talking about some great moves. You had a lot of stocks in double digits today, which to me is somewhat surprising. We usually don't get big moves like that. So let's dive into the topic du jour, which is this bad boy right here. S&P 500 flat for the year. I didn't think I'd be saying it this soon. There's been many commentary done by myself and other guests where I still felt like the low has not been put in. And I thought we would trickle lower under the guise of if this continues to this trade war continues to linger on, then I thought we're going to continue to go lower and lower and lower. And I did also say that if we get some resolution, this market's going to soar and be back at all-time highs. And right now, I think you're getting a little bit of anticipation of some resolution coming here. And maybe that's on the heels of President Trump saying, just buy stocks. Big M says, it's been a V, just like it was back in 2020, right? We had that aggressive sell-off and just V-bottomed and screamed out of there. Yeah, we look pretty darn good. Let's start there. So I'm going to go with the SPX because that officially shows the numbers here. But if we go from the SPX from December 31st of last year, like literally going a straight, from January 31st, December 31st to where we are right now, man, we are actually up just barely on SPX. You can see here, 0.08%. But a pretty phenomenal recovery to bring us all the way back up. Normally it goes the other direction, meaning we take the stairs up and the elevator down. In this case, it feels almost like the stairs down and the elevator up. We fell 21% in 33 days, or 33 trading sessions on the SPX. And here we are now up 21% in 25 days. So we've moved up faster and further, almost further, than the decline in a very short window of time. Great news. I did open a short position on S&P yesterday. Of course, that was not a large one. I told you that if I thought we were going to stall right on this 57.75 mark. We broke through that. I'm like, that's okay. I've got to stop above that 6,000 mark on these options, but luckily it's not a lot. So it's the only losing position I have today was the short on the S&P. Of course, I've still long SMCI. Which, why not, Andrea says, from bear to bull market in just 1 month. Pretty phenomenal. I find myself very fortunate that even though I did have a bearish bias, days like today, you would think that a bearish person like myself is getting clobbered. I had a great day, mainly because of my long-term holdings. So let me dive into some of the other pieces, and I apologize if I don't have all the graphics set up and I'm ready for today. I'm probably going to end the show early because I'm absolutely gassed here from talking for hours and hours and hours. But let's talk about SMCI. I know it's not one we normally bring up, but I do have this one in my portfolio, and it's funny because they got upgraded by Wedbush Morgan today. So not a major firm, Wedbush. I personally don't think of that significant, but they did get upgraded today with a price target of $41. They were up 16% today, and they're up another 2.6% in the after-hour session, trading at $39.91. Of course, I'm frustrated with that because I sold calls against it at 37, which I will let them get taken away. I will definitely let them get taken away from me. I'm done with that SMCI trade. Not a big fan of SMCI. I think it's a little too shady with their numbers, etc. But Raymond James upgraded them to $41 per share. That was a huge one. You guys also, I saw you talking about SMR. Nuclear. Beautiful move up in SMR, 21.64% for that one. You had Archer. This is basically a individual flying car company. Archer Aviation up 22.91%. So definitely some big movers out there. And then we look at the broad market indexes. It is pretty good across the board. Obviously, you guys know I'm long pretty heavily on Bitcoin and derivatives of Bitcoin. I've been selling. I sold a bunch of puts this week on MicroStrategy. Those will most likely expire worthless. I sold the 380s and collecting about little over 1% for the week. And I did go further out than I wanted. Oh yeah, Palantir. Absolutely. Let's take a peek at Palantir. Palantir screaming up today, 8.14%. I know it's not like a 20% gain, but just in the past, from low to where it closed at today, in the past 5 days, Palantir's up 21.6%. Like, yowzers. Incredible. Really just incredible. And if you look at the price chart here, Palantir's all-time highs. So we said all-time highs today for Palantir. It just seems like, I feel like the market's just throwing its arms back, running through this field of flowers, just screaming with joy as markets just continue to rip to the upside. Love it. Certainly I'm a little upset that I gave back some of the profits due to that short position, but my gains far outshadowed that little loss, so not that big of a deal. And especially when you look at my large holdings in cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, for example, up 3.08% for the futures, 105.26 or 105,265 for this price of the futures today, which is absolutely fantastic. So all in all, a great day. Unfortunately for me, everything above $37 in SMCI is gone. Chad says, I've been flat since Friday, still flat. It's all right. It's all right. Being flat, it may suck because you see, these two huge gain days, and you're like, why did I miss that? But you know what, Chad? You only have that remorse because it moved up so much. If this market had tanked and you were flat, you'd be like, yeah, I knew it. It's just the nature of the beast. Flat is the best, safest place to be. When you're flat, you're not going to lose money. You may have lost potential opportunity, but you didn't actually lose money in your account, so be okay with that. Let's see. Exactly, Luis. Flat is definitely better than negative. What are some of the other pieces? Oh, another one today. There's many times that I feel like kicking myself. The big one that gets to me is my love for Amazon. And I've loved Amazon since, I would say probably 2002. Right after I had the big old sell-off and started to get into more diversified products, I'm looking at Amazon going, man, that's just a great buy. And I've always talked highly of Amazon. It's my favorite. I'd say it's my favorite company because of what they do, the diversification. Yet I have not held it for the long term. I've day traded a bunch, but that's one that got away from me. Another one, and you guys might remember back 2020, I think, we were talking about Coinbase. And I was talking about Coinbase way back here when it was down in that $40 range. Like, okay, if it breaks above 40, I'm interested. And Coinbase has been on a pretty significant run here, at least over the past few weeks. Today, up 23.96% or 97%. And the reason for that is something really interesting, and I guess it makes me feel good. It's a little air of vindication from all the, I've stood my ground on cryptocurrencies and digital assets. Granted, I do admit that 99% of them are scams and frauds, but I do believe that there is a significant impact coming and transition to digital networks, to digital money, and why not be the early adopter? Well, I will tell you, I've unfortunately lost some people I would normally call friends because they're like, oh, you're crazy, you're a loser, you're pump and dump, you're a scam artist, you're a snake oil salesman for talking about cryptocurrency. This was a pretty big decision today from S&P. So the S&P 500 added Coinbase to the S&P 500, which is the first real crypto project ever to be listed as an S&P 500 company. That to me is a big stamp of approval, and I think it's vindication for Coinbase because remember, Coinbase has been sued by the SEC multiple times. It just feels like, I don't know, I think a lot of people still think Coinbase and crypto's a fraud, and now that they've turned that corner, now that you see the political side changing and politicians being a little more open and regulatory environment changing, Coinbase, this, I think it's well deserved, honestly. To me, this is just the future, one of the future aspects of personal finance. So, correct, Lisa. But it does, Lisa says about Coinbase is a trading platform for crypto, not crypto itself. Absolutely. But, as Big Eb says, it legitimizes the entire crypto industry because here you have an exchange that, mind you, has already been approved by the SEC to be a publicly traded company, and then once it was public, the SEC attacked it. That made no sense whatsoever. But now you have an exchange. So by bringing an exchange onto Coinbase, it says crypto's here to stay, meaning that exchange is going to be there. Let's add a forum for this digital transaction, site. I think it's absolutely fantastic. Congrats to Coinbase. I think that's a well-deserved nod of approval after getting, beaten down for so long. And I'm just bummed that I didn't buy it when it was at $40. Like I told you guys on the show that I was like, yeah, I'm going to buy it when it breaks 40, and I did not do it. I was in something else. Unfortunately, that's another one that got away from me a little bit there, and It's always frustrating when that happens, as you guys know. Now, other things that were noteworthy. Liz says United Health Group gas had an epic fall, UNH, United Healthcare, doesn't look like it wants to stop either. I got a question from this one this morning on what to do with UNH. So let's look at United Health Group again. I pulled up the measurement stick here to see how far it's fallen from the April 11th highs, right? On April 11th, UNH was $606. Right now in the after hour session, it's at 314. That's a slide of roughly 49% in 21 days. Ouch. This feels like a crypto move. That has been absolutely gut-wrenchingly brutal. Now, I guess the question I have for myself, and maybe some of you can answer this, is at what point do you look at somebody as big as UNH, right? As massive as that company is, and as entrenched as they are, I don't think they're going away. At what point do we look at UNH and say, okay, it's a buy point. I'm going to be interested in maybe buying some UNH. And I think that is a very real question that may need to be answered here soon. I mean, it looks absolutely appalling. However, that usually reflects people's sentiment and fear. And if people are dumping it that much, down 40%, roughly 40%, my mind is like, okay, I'm catching that falling knife. But at what point? Still $314. If we put this on a weekly to paint a slightly different picture and condense some of these candles down, you're now looking at levels that you have not seen since 2020. I don't know about you. Chris says 50% is generally a good place to start adding. I'm starting to think so too. But what's that chart say? The chart says that there's extreme panic. If you look at we'll put the 200 period moving average on here. Actually, I can't put the 200 period average because for some reason I can't. Oh, there. Now it lets me edit. It's weird. Some days I can edit, other days I can't. Look how far below the 200 period moving average is. Normally what you get here is a slingshot move, right? Slingshot move. A lot thought it was a buy at 400. You have to look at why it's cratered. Yes, certainly going to look at why it's cratered, but I don't think this company is going to go away. The CEO stepped down, and they delayed their their numbers or their forecasts. I forgot which one. I think they delayed their outlook, so they stalled their outlook out there. But yeah, that third CEO, man, been absolutely wild. And certainly not having a CEO is concerning. But there's somebody can step in and run this company. And maybe it has a little bit further to go, but at some point, I do think this is going to end up being they pulled their guidance. That's the word I was looking for, Big Eb. But is that out of the ordinary? I think right now, pulling guidance is just a thing to do, right? Pulling normally when you pull your guidance, it's a sign of real troubles ahead. We saw it happen with quite a few different tech companies now because of the tariffs. And, now we have companies just reporting big losses and saying they're going to take big hits, but Honda as well, saying they're going to take a pretty big hit. $3 billion, I think, was their number. Where's the 20 and the 50 at? I'll put them both on here. Let me just add them on. I'll do another moving average just so I can have them both at the same time. We'll go simple moving average, and we'll make that one a 50. So the 200 is way up there, and so is the 50, honestly. It's got to be. The tough part about trying to pick a moving average line is it lights up the whole chart. There we go. So here's your 200 and your 50 period moving averages on there at the same time. Obviously, we know which one's which because of how much it moves. The 200 is obviously the smoother one, but I'll make that a different color. We'll make that, I don't know, whatever color this is. Reddish, red. Both of them are way up there, and we are so far down below those moving averages. I love it, Big Ed. Thanks for that. It made me laugh. He says, but there's a 2.2% dividend. Yeah, true, but this is way too expensive for Michael. Michael's not going to buy a $500 or $300 stock. It's got to be sub $5 for him to get. We shall see. I don't know. I'm going to follow this one over the next couple weeks. I think that we're going to get to a point where you go, okay, this is going to be a good buy. But I want to look a little bit more at the numbers. I may actually have Larry look at the numbers for me and do a fundamental piece on it because I'm curious. I'm curious what the fundamentals of this look like. Normally, I don't do drugs or pharmaceuticals. So technically, I could buy United Health Group because I wouldn't call that drugs or pharmaceuticals. It's healthcare. But man, just an absolute apocalypse. I can't imagine being an employee of this company right now and having all these stock options. Like, well, I guess that's underwater. I guess I have to work another 20 years. Okay, next one you start a fib. What do you want to fib on? Where do you want to fib from here, Chris? We could pull fibs, but normally I would want to see where the pullback would end, and that'd have to be a fib from this whole move. And unfortunately, I don't know, where do you start, right? Where do you start this big move? The other side would be to do it from this sell-off. If it was to bounce, where might it bounce back to? And that would bring us back up here. But I don't think fibs would work on this one. At least for me, they wouldn't work right now. So yeah, that one is another one to keep your eye on. I think at some point it's going to be a screaming buy. I just don't know if it's right now at 300 and now it's at $317. Pretty wild. Absolute wild fall. Listen, right, but take a look at their guidance from last earnings. Also, tariffs won't have that much impact on UNH, so that's not why. Correct. It's definitely not the tariff side of things. We know that. It's uncertainty about the company and the company's business. Now, maybe this guy, who is the assassin in all this, did his job, which was to make a spectacle of UNH and their tactics on insurance. And I think many of us would probably nod our heads that insurance companies can be rather slimy when it comes to paying out what they said they're going to pay for claims. That's just the nature of the beast, right? We've all come to accept that. So what else was exciting out there for us? I guess when we go back to the crypto side of things, I was going to sort this by big winners for today and big losers in the crypto space, because look at the chart here. There were quite a few good ones. I had a nice 7% jump up on Ethereum, which has come very welcome for me. And if you look over the past month or so, man, Ethereum really has had a colossal rip to the upside. Down from the lows we established back on, let me get to the bottom here, on April 9th to where we are today, you're looking at a 93% move up in Ethereum. Woo, Nelly. Goodness gracious. Still not looking that great. It's actually hit right into its 200-period moving average right now. But there were a few other cryptos out there that were doing pretty good. Certainly Solana. A lot of them come right back to that 200-period moving average, which I think is going to be an interesting stall point here for crypto going forward. So even though we're looking really bullish, we're coming right into those 200-period moving averages, even on things like B to the T to the C. Bitcoin is well above that 200-period moving average because it is certainly the best of them out there. Now, NVIDIA as well. Again, NVIDIA, it's the whole chip component, the CHIP Act repeal, and also just the tariff talk settlement here. Big catalyst for it. I was bummed. I wanted it to sell off so I could sell more puts against it. But yeah, you're up 5.3% on NVIDIA. I'm going on a limb and saying I think most people here had a pretty good week so far, just from the holdings that you might have in your portfolio. So it's been pretty darn nice. Now, I'm going to run through our top 8 here and just kind of do a little quick analysis. I turn these moving averages off, and then I'm going to wrap it up a little. I don't need Bollinger Bands. Let's get rid of those because, as I mentioned, I am absolutely gassed today. Let's turn off our Bollingers. Boom. And I was surprised I didn't get any hate mail from you guys. I don't know if you watched the Warriors game last night. I'm a Warriors fan. Yowzers. That third period might have been one of the worst quarters of basketball I've ever seen. I felt like I could have gotten together with 5 of my other overweight friends from high school, and we could have done better than the Warriors did in the third quarter. Unbelievably bad. I was cringing. Like, no defensive, no one was running. Here we are down now 3-1 against the Timberwolves. So far, you in Minnesota. You guys played great. You look like absolute Olympians out there, just dominating my Warriors. Oh, you lose your star player. That's what happens. And bunch of the chips going to Saudi Arabia. Yes, they're going everywhere, Tofi. So I think NVIDIA's loving this because the doors have opened back up to a lot of the countries that maybe they were limited in with regards to selling chips to. So right now, if I'm Saudi Arabia or any country that's had issues with getting chips, I'm putting as many orders out there as I can get to get these ones. So that should be a big heyday for NVIDIA. Just been an absolutely great chart. I thought it would stall yesterday as it came back up to that blue line, which represents a turning point that we saw from back in March. But no, right now, just straight up euphoria abound. Rip into the upside. That 170 for NVIDIA is looking great to reach by year end. Well, let's zoom out here a little bit. I'm curious. You had 175 to 200. But that was by 2026. I forget what you made that call on, but there it is. I got 175 to 200. Certainly, we could get to all-time highs here in no time. again, if this trade deal, if there is a trade deal, and we get real clear rules on what goes on with China and chips and all that type of stuff. One of the big positive pieces is China said that they'll agree to crack down on intellectual property rights, which is a huge move. Who knows if it's true or not, but that could certainly be a big boom for NVIDIA. And I would agree with you, Big Eb. If we get clarity and peace with China, 175 seems like a low end. NVIDIA is just dominating. So yeah, more upside there. You're still holding, so today was a golden day for you. You got that and that nuclear company out there. Dakota Craft says NVIDIA's a winner. Absolutely. I don't think anybody in this channel has been talking negative about NVIDIA. We're all in the same boat that we agree NVIDIA is the king of kings with regards to the AI gold rush, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. Let's hope that trend keeps on continuing, especially for those of you who are holding the shares. I am not holding any shares of NVIDIA right now. I was selling puts quite a bit the last few weeks, but did not get exercise, unfortunately. All right, bottom of our list, the dollar. So you have this would be a bearish Harami formation. So we had questions. I think it was Oliver was asking about, Harami's, some comment about engulfings yesterday. This is a bearish Harami formation on the dollar index. Now, this does imply that there's weakness in that dollar index. The way you'd approach this pattern here today, let me get rid of these lines here. The way you'd approach that would be a break of today's low. That low on the dollar index is 100.91. We're near that right now at 100.98. So if we get down below that, that would be a follow-through Harami reversal pattern, if for those of you like candlesticks. Now our 10-year yield, still trickling up. It was slightly down on the day, 0.04%. So not that big of a deal, but the trend is certainly starting to drift higher and higher. Now, in my opinion, you got to look at the anticipation here of what's going to happen with regards to the FOMC and our next meeting, which is coming up next month. So let me bring that one up for you guys. Our June 18th meeting, still the same. Right now, expectation is that no cuts will happen. 91% chance we're going to stay the same. However, it is 8.5% or 8.2% chance that we're going to see a 25 basis point cut. A week ago, it was 30%. A month ago, it was 64%. So definitely tide swinging and shifting to no more cuts. The December one's the one that I've been keeping my eye on, though, and now that's changed dramatically as well. You might remember, like a week ago, there was like a 33% chance. There was a 36% chance of 3 rate cuts. Now there's a 37% chance of only 2 rate cuts. So the whole curve is shifting more and more to the right here, showing fewer rate cuts by the end of the year, which might fall right into Bill Addis's wheelhouse. Remember, he said he thinks they might actually raise. That would be a shock to the system for sure. All right. Last piece here before I go back to my top 10 or top 8 would be the consumer price index numbers. It increased, but not as much as expected. So we're kind of back to the sideways bouncing that we had. Let me zoom in here just so we can get past the high points. Looking at our consumer price index data, we had that negative 0.1 reading for April. We came out at a 0.2 reading for May. Expectations were 0.3. So this is all obviously very good, not as high as expected, but we're back up to kind of, I would say, your average line. You notice going back about the past year, all the way back through August of 2024, 0.2 was kind of your constant. We went 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, kind of stepped up a little bit before coming back down. Now we'll see if this kind of keeps on traversing sideways right here. That sounds familiar from prior years, doesn't it? Fewer cuts and later, yes. Remember, these guys are anticipating wildly. They don't know. They're just anticipating what they think and what they want to happen. I think most traders, most economists, most politicians would love to have 8 rate cuts by the end of the year. But the market has to tell them what to do. And right now, I don't think the market's really saying that we need to cut rates. Hold, it would be the prudent thing to do. Will Powell change his tone on Thursday? No, I don't think so. The increase in CPI today is nothing out of that extravagant. It's not like, oh, wow, we're getting crushed again. We're just kind of back up to a normal level. Remember, if you keep 0.2 and you annualize 0.2, it's a 2.4% inflation. And I think right now the core PCE is at 2.3%. So no big deal. This is not a big deal. The big concern will be next time we report the core PCE price index numbers. That will be the important one. It's that one, and I think GDP. Even though that's not a mandate of the Fed, I think the GDP will be a pretty important one, which is, of course, going to happen next month or this month. That GDP number will give us a clue as to how our economy is doing. And again, these wild swings, I think, change a lot of that, make it really confusing and difficult to put your finger on exactly what we need to change to fix this economy when there's so many variables that are still up in the air and spinning. So all in all, pretty darn good. Now, that CPI number, as I mentioned, looking good. Now, I wouldn't call it anything bad. I mean, 0.2% is, I would say, in line with what we've had pretty much for the last year. Much better than this rising stair step up we saw. Unfortunately, the graphic that I wanted to show you that has the inflationary numbers, there was some inflation data on that one. I don't have that graphic here with me, unfortunately. I wish I did. I think I might be able to bring it up for you guys. Hold on a second, see if I can bring this up and show you. It's a dynamic chart here. And where is it? Aha. Here you go. This is from Yahoo. So there's a couple things I'm going to take from this that I think are very interesting. And let me zoom in here. It says where inflation is and where it isn't. This is the 12-month change in prices. Now, auto insurance was up at the top for a long time. It's still number one at 6.4%. But I think a couple of months ago, it was like at 20%. Like, it was really high. The pieces that stand out to me, there's three pieces that really jump off the screen at me. Number one, as we pointed out here many times, energy prices are a big reason we're seeing CPI numbers drop and core PCE price index and overall inflation. They dropped 11.8% year over year for gasoline. That's great. Obviously, something that the administrations can gloat about. But the real part for me is overall inflation, this is the core PCE price index data, shows 2.3%. 1 year change. Great. We're good with that. However, this one is a bit off. It says earnings is up 3.8%. That's great. You know, when you have people making more money, earnings increasing faster than the rate of inflation, that actually will end up driving inflation up. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing, because we want people to spend, we want consumption in the economy, but that's a pretty big separation there. 3.8% earnings growth year over year, and inflation only up 2.3% year over year. So maybe people are just saving their money, but ultimately when people make more money, they tend to spend more money, and that spending could drive prices back up. Other notable pieces here for those who are listening to the podcast: household energy was up 5.5%, rent was up 4%, housing is up 4%, restaurant meals 3.9%. I'd argue it's even more than that. Lisa says, where is the homeowner's insurance? That one is a massive one. Yeah, but it's not on here. Which, you put auto insurance, and here's where these numbers bother me. Did somebody take that number out of this calculation? Because it's got to be higher than auto insurance, especially out here in Southern California. I mean, after the fires we've had, insurance is much higher. I feel like I'm somewhat protected in my area. There's not a lot of dry brush around where I live, but we're up in the hills and those valleys, man. Try living in California, exactly. Complete ridiculous. Some places can't even get insurance, which makes it tough to build and tough to live, especially if you're getting a mortgage, because you have to have homeowners insurance. So yeah, that is a big variable that is not on here, and that kind of drives me nuts. Pets and pet care, I'll tell you what, my number is way higher than 1.9%. I think I'm up at like a 30% gain in my old dog's medical expenses. But hey, that's time. It happens. New vehicles, up 0.3%. That's good. We'll take a very slight increase there. Used vehicles are up 1.5%. Remember, used vehicles were way up. Now dropping back significantly. So one other piece here that I'm excited about is airfare. Year over year, airfare is down 7.9%. I like that because I certainly would like to go take some time to travel a little bit here. Right now, I've just been work. As you know, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy, for those who have not seen The Shining. All right, let me go back to my top 10, and then I'll answer some questions if you guys have them. Type them in the chat, and then I will wrap up here for the day. Most of these indexes look great. Russell was really your laggard. Is only up 0.38%, pretty weak. Gold, we were talking about coming into that demand zone and having a bounce. It started to bounce, but really, as you had such a wonderful move in the broad market indexes, I feel like it really didn't do much here today. It just kind of floundered around at 0.61. I mean, that number was already there when we rolled over last night. And here we are just with a small little green candle right at that demand zone. So certainly I'm more interested in this level than ever. That level between 3,208 and 3,246. S&P 500, 0.67% gain today. I've mapped out the futures, which show it being down on the year, but according to SPX, we are actually up 0.08% on the year. Erased all of those losses. Absolutely fantastic. But really the winner here, NASDAQ, technology, rip-a-dee-doo-dah, from the lows we achieved back here on April 7th to where we are right now, the NASDAQ is up 29%. Man, absolutely crazy. Phenomenal runs. We talked about I actually drew it out here, the little cup and handle pattern, and I guess actually if you were to draw it from the base to that neckline there, you're looking at we're pretty darn close. That would bring up the NASDAQ 100 to a price of about 22,311. We've got about 1,100 points to go till we get there. That's right. Woohoo! QQQ. Love it. Yeah, I have in another one of my long-term accounts, I'm actually holding some semiconductor ETFs, so that's very welcome. Crude oil, 2.78% pop to the upside. We had that great shooting star yesterday. I was optimistic that we'd actually a down move today in crude oil, but no, lo and behold, a monster rip to the upside. Just simply the way that it happens. And finally, we mentioned Bitcoin, 105,265 right now in the after-hour session. Looking great. And again, I mentioned I think we'll be at all-time highs by the end of the month. I still stand by that. Just the momentum is there. Things have changed. That downward trajectory we saw for all of January, February, and March, we broke that. Now the trend is to the upside, and it feels like it's much more aggressive. So, yeah, here we go. The road to 250 has begun. Let's see if we can get there. Anything else you guys want me to cover before I wrap up? I know it's I'm way early. I've never done a 30-minute show, and I still haven't because it's only 34 minutes in. But anything else you guys want me to talk about, address? I'm kind of scatterbrained here today with regards to my topics. We talked about Coinbase. Oh, one other thing. When a company gets added to the S&P 500 or to the Dow, it's always interesting to go and see what's getting removed. And it's actually DFS. This is Discovery Financial Services. And the reason is this is actually getting purchased by somebody else. It's getting purchased by Capital One. Therefore, they don't have two symbols on. They'll just remove this one and put in Coinbase. So there you go. It's just to throw that one out there as a little piece of clarity on what's happening with that purchase out. So anything else you guys want me to discuss real quick? I'm going to need some rest. It's funny because I want to take a nap before I go to trivia tonight. My brain's just it's so flooded from talking. Hopefully we'll do well at trivia tonight. But yeah, all in all, a great day. I'm pretty excited the way it happened. Rob says bearish above in supply zone. Are you talking about Bitcoin? I mean, we're getting really close to it. No problem. It's just a little nappy nap, just a little nappy. See, what do you got in there? CRWV? Core weave, huh? Well, first off, I'm not a big fan of companies with very little history. So technically, this thing looks great. You're actually at a double top right now, but there's not enough history here to really make a very informed decision about price behavior, right? It really looks like it started here on the 28th of March, and really no real history to go off of if you're looking at CRWV, if I got your ticker symbol correct there, Dakota. All in all, trend looks great. It looks to me like this is going to be fairly illiquid. Let me see what the volume is. No, you're good. Actually, 7 million, 5 million. Oh, perfect. Looks good. Thanks, Andres. You look like crap, Merlin. DFS. So Discover Financial Services one, yeah, if you zoom out here a little bit, you're right. You're actually peaked past that all-time high, but I wouldn't expect there to be anything to happen with this. By the way, Coinbase will get added to the S&P 500. That's going to be on May 19th, so we're just about a week away from having Coinbase officially part of the S&P 500. Right now it was just talk, but yeah, big update today. It says days to cover. I say, did you cover Trump and Elon inside your... No, I did not. I haven't been watching the news today just because I've been in class teaching all day, but I'll get into some of that stuff tomorrow and give me a little chance to regroup and look at what's going on in the market and get back to some trading. So really just positions for me today. All in all, fantastic day. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me. I'm going to run. I'm going to go take a little bit of a break. Hope you all enjoyed. Sorry for the shorter show, but I need to take some rest here before my immune system crashes, which would keep me out for a week. Anyway, if you guys have something you want me to cover tomorrow, it's Wednesday. Let me know. Larry will be on Thursday, so we'll talk about Warren Buffett. We'll talk about his legacy and some of the things that we can learn from Warren Buffett. There's always something good with that guy. So if you guys have comments, questions, feedback, things you want me to cover, email me at tradermerlin@gmail.com or put it down below any of the YouTube videos. Take care, everybody. Have a great trading day tomorrow. I'll see you tomorrow.